then I may get feedback from people who listen to or watch the recording. So I'll just state it now. I'm wondering if people would find it valuable to have a group not recorded, not published, or recorded or published. Yeah. So please get back to me, anybody who's triggered by that one.
Yeah, now I think about it. How the people watching will see how stupid I am.
Oh, oh no. Well, yeah. I rather imagine that anybody watching this is not going to have that kind of value judgment. You but anyway, no. I can imagine people have all sorts of reactions to what is said and what people are discussing, but I never hear about that. I certainly see comments on the YouTube videos, and I get emails and various things from people that say how much value it's been for them to watch other people, and it's amazing that it doesn't matter what people could say. People could say, "Oh, I've got a brown dog," and somebody will go, "Oh, I get that. I get that. I've got one too," or something. It's amazing that the most inane things somebody will get some value out of it. It really is amazing for me. So no, they won't say that they think you're stupid, or they won't. I mean, how stupid you are. You are not stupid. And the idea that you are stupid really says something else. Nothing, not about stupidity. What is stupidity anyway? We're talking about a level of intelligence. You know? No, I don't think there's a problem.
Stupidity is a false belief that I am wise.
Yeah. Well, then you have a stupid attitude towards yourself then, because you do say wise things from time to time. So yeah, I bet you don't realise that that's the case. Yeah. Yeah.
And from time to time, I say stupid things. And
Well, me too, of
it
course.
is like it is.
I think one of the probably one of the main things that people respond to is the openness, the authenticity of people who speak, and who speak about themselves in a way that they certainly wouldn't in a social situation. That seems to be a big thing. And everybody yearns for that, the ability to be totally spontaneous and authentic without having to consider it. That that society doesn't really allow that, does it? Mm.
With freedom to be stupid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll go along with that. Yeah.
Oh, it is strange now. Like sometimes I really don't know who I am, or what I am, if I am.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend who I haven't seen for years and years and years, actually for probably nearly 20 years, um, came and visited me a couple of days ago, and he just left today. He stayed for a couple of nights, and he was a doctor that found my bowel cancer back in 1997, and he was a friend then, a good friend, a lovely bloke, really lovely bloke, So we were having this conversation, and I get up on my soapbox and start talking about self and no self and all that kind of stuff. And we came to an agreement after a couple of hours of talking like that we don't know who we are. We've got no idea who we are or what's going on. There's just this experience, and we interpret that as well. So yeah, we certainly can't come to a conclusion about who or what we are. It's just not possible unless we don't look at any details. The moment we look at details, that becomes obvious. But if somebody's really adamant about who they are or what they are, you know that they're not looking at details, that they're just reciting a story.
Mm. Well, for me, it was rather, I was just lacking some information.
So now that you've got that information,
Mm-hmm.
what's the result of that? You know who you are, what you are.
No,
No, the opposite. Now you know that you don't know. Yeah. Yet information is like a drug, and I've read a bit about this one as well. That gaining some information, especially if it resonates, has the same effect as some drugs do. It gives you a sense of euphoria or a sense of something that comes from that. So information is much more powerful than we think it is. And I guess I'm imagining that's partly because we've been conditioned all our life that information is valuable. It's a good thing. The more we've got, the better. So we all watch these, what game shows, I suppose you call them, where these quizzes on TV about trivial information, a lot of it, but we're astounded by people who know so much. And I suppose we look down or we disparage somebody who doesn't know the answers to a lot of things.
well, with this missing piece of information, it's if I have a belief, I need some data, some information contrary to this belief,
Mm.
uh, to disprove this belief. I need to have some data contradictory, that the belief doesn't work with the data. So it's a wrong belief.
Yep, yep. So does that mean that you end up with a new belief that the data?
No,
No.
it's
Well, you are going to end up
uh,
with the belief that the old belief isn't right,
mhm.
but I wonder how far it goes. Yeah. It's a question I have, but I've asked many times, but I never have an answer. I don't know the answer, and that is when we lose a belief, is it replaced by another belief always, or can we lose it and just not have any belief? I just don't know the answer to that one. I'm I'm inclined to come down on the side that yes, we always end up with a new belief. But yeah, it's good to contemplate that one.
Well, you are right that at least we end up with a belief that the old belief was wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it opens up another one that's rather interesting, and that is that we're conditioned again to believe that whatever it is that I don't know how to put it. Um, the, let's use as an example self-esteem. If we're conditioned to believe that if we have a low self-esteem, the only way to fix it is to have a high self-esteem. When in fact it's not. That's just the same problem in a different direction. It's fixed when self-esteem is not an issue anymore, when it simply drops off the radar altogether. And I wonder if that's also a part of the belief system, that when some beliefs, we don't develop a contrary belief, or even, I mean, we may for a while carry a belief that the old belief is wrong, but then it simply ceases to be of interest at all. Okay, so I hadn't thought of it like that with beliefs, but yeah, okay, so that might mean that we don't need another belief to replace the old one. We might for a while, but then we just forget it, the whole thing. Hmm. So you recently dropped a belief about the value of non-existence.
I wouldn't say it like that.
It didn't feel. It felt a bit klutzy when I said it. Yeah. Um, but yeah, you know what I mean. So it wasn't actually information, but it could be called information, but the recognition that you were using that as a, what would you call it? A compensation,
Coping mechanism.
coping mechanism. Yeah. And if you've had that for a large part of your life, it's likely to persist as a habit, that each time it turns up, there'll be the recognition that, oh, I'm coping with something. So that would be valuable, wouldn't it? So do you no longer need to cope with whatever you were using that to cope with, or have you found a different way to cope with it?
I still need to cope.
Yeah. So you use that same approach to do that, or have you found a better one, a different one? And by find, I mean, has one appeared? It's not that you necessarily consciously apply one.
No,
Which one are you saying no to? That you no longer need
I
to?
haven't found the new way of coping.
Okay. So does the old one still work for you?
Yeah, there is still sleeping and numbing and distractions.
Do you see that in real time when it happens or only afterwards?
Hmm. Rather afterwards.
Hmm. Is there a story anywhere about that, about an opinion about whether it's okay or not okay, good or bad? Anything about it?
No, it feels rather blah,
Rather what?
blah.
Blah. Right. Well, that's good stuff. That's what we do with doubts. We just go, they're boring. Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that that process, that feeling, if it's a feeling, or that mental process, whatever it is, does that occur more than once a week? Does it happen to you frequently? Infrequent?
Yeah,
Would you say every day? Does it happen to you every day?
yes.
More than once a day?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, we're playing with it when we talk about it like it's an event. So, but presumably, it's something that creeps up and fades away, and it's not. It's not. There's not really any defined beginning or end to it, is there? Or is it? Does it hit you when it comes?
Sometimes it's when I'm distracting myself with a game or something, and then after the game, I feel I need to lay down for a moment, and then I feel the fear, the stress in the body,
Okay. Yep.
what was kept away.
Hmm. And it's pretty bland, the attitude you have towards that. Is that accurate? That you don't beat yourself up over it or anything. You
Hmm?
just you do beat yourself up.
No, no,
No, you
no,
don't. No,
I don't. I
yeah,
don't.
good. It's just a fact. You just see it and it's a fact. Yeah, yeah. Okay. do you recognize the value of seeing that you've done it, that it's happened, not that you've done it, but do you recognize the value of seeing it?
I don't think so. No.
Hmm. See that seeing it, even if it's after the fact, that's that's a really big pivot point. That's where the whole thing can be changed. Um, and that's when, with that laughing exercise, I often recommend to people that they laugh when they have the realization that's been going on. And what that does is it usually means the realization will happen quicker and faster, um, and earlier in the process. And as soon as you have that realization, that changes things. That's part of what allows us to consider alternatives or let go of, or whatever the process is that happens. But it is a very, very powerful state, that pivot point when the recognition happens, when the realization happens that, that was happening. Yeah. So what feeling right now? I saw when you had a drink, then I saw that there was a little tremble in your hand. Are you feeling okay now, or are you feeling stressed?
Mm. And I don't feel any concrete anxiety.
So when I asked you that question, did you think of your hand and that?
Well, I can feel now the tremors.
Yep, yep, yep. But you can't see anything that they're attached to or that they come from.
Mm, oh, maybe kind of general anxiety.
Oh, okay. Ooh, so that's an interesting one. That suggests that it's something that's there most of the time. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Mm. Do you imagine that that's there when you're asleep? Have you had any indications about that?
It's certainly in my dreams.
It is in your dreams. Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you can you imagine that you would ever be free of that?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Yeah.
But I want to learn more about, as I said before, I want to learn more about this mechanism. How does it start? Mm.
Yep. I get that. So it occurs to
Because you know that this desire for non-existence is It comes with the fear of existence, with fear of life in general. And this fear is always here.
Mm. Mm. And you're not. I if I read from what you've said, what we've spoken about, it's not that the fear is a fear of something in the future happening. It's 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 a fear
It's
of,
here,
yeah,
it's here.
yes, now in just simply being alive. Yeah. So rather than life supporting you, this is a story, of course, but rather than life supporting you, life contains a threat of some kind. Would that does that ring true?
I think it's even more complicated.
So this fear is not about danger, is it?
Because I am life too.
Yes. So whatever the let's call it a threat. It doesn't feel quite right, but whatever is behind the uncertainty or the, yeah, let's just call it a threat for the
Mm.
sake of something that life offers you, because you are also life and you see this, then you are doing this to yourself as well as whatever else life entails.
Yeah, oh, life is doing it to itself.
Mm. Hmm.
Maybe it's just it's unknown.
Yeah, well, it is unknown. We know that.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that it's
And that is scary.
yeah,
It
yeah.
does what it does. It creates, it supports, it destroys. Who knows why and how and
Mm. So if we have, let's look at another picture for a moment. Nothing to do with you and at this stage. Let's just see if it somehow is involved. But it's easy to see at an intellectual level that anything or anybody harming themselves defies logic. It's why would somebody hit themselves on the hand with a hammer? Or what we do know happens is some people cut themselves, and they generally, when they cut themselves, they would generally say that that gives them a feeling of something that is a positive feeling. It gives them a feeling of being alive, or a version of that, or who knows what else. Yeah, yeah. and if we apply the same logic to life hurting itself, hurting maybe not the right word, but life doing that to itself doesn't make sense at an intellectual level. But using the same logic as somebody who self-harms, there is a positive value in that. Do you feel or imagine that there is some positive value in this for you, in your version of this? It's a coping mechanism. You've already said that.
For now, there is no value, no
No obvious
positive
value.
value. It is senseless, it just is, and we have to cope with it.
Yeah. Well, it's not senseless in that way. It helps us cope for sure. I mean, smoking, you don't need to feel anything negative about the idea that you smoke. We know we have enough information to know what smoking does for us, but it is a coping mechanism, isn't it? It helps us with something. As an ex-smoker, I'm fully aware of how I used to use smoking, and it is the case. And it damages us. We know it damages us, but we still do it because of the positive effects we get from it. So it's not senseless completely, not at all. It goes again.
Life,
Yes.
not smoking.
Mm,
Life in whole.
mm. So what's the first thing that comes to mind if I ask you, what needs to change in you for this to be different?
I don't know.
No, nothing comes to mind. Nothing jumps up. Mm. Well, not knowing is a good place to start. And looking for information about this so that it can change and let's say change in a way and diminish. That's a really positive thing.
It just feels natural for me. That's how I function.
Mm,
That's what I do.
mm,
It's not forced.
yep. I really like that you see some of this stuff in a mechanistic way. You see it as not well. You see it as just there. There is no judgment about it. It's just a fact of life. There it is. Yeah, that's I like that. So, is there a question mark for you about what it is you're coping with? Do you have something more specific than just say anxiety? Have you ever wondered what you might be coping with?
No, other than anxiety, I can tell.
You have an anxiety, you can tell. Did you say?
Other than anxiety,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm. Can you remember ever being without that anxiety in your life?
If I'm distracted, yes.
Okay. So and even now, if you're distracted, it's not there. Right.
Well, it's pushed down.
Mm.
You know, it's when I'm distracted, I'm not in my body. Yeah, when I talk with people, it's often when we go for a walk. When I go for a walk with a friend, um, it doesn't matter to me what route do we take. Shall we go to park?
Mm.
Whatever. When I'm talking with my friend, I'm just talking with my friend.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, that's a big, yeah.
Maybe the only thing I care about is that it is not noisy because I want to hear well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have that too. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I wonder if I want, let's examine for a moment that idea that that when you're in that state, you're actually pushing the anxiety down. And I'm suspecting that that's not the case. It's not that you're suppressing it because your attention is on whatever else you're doing. You know, so to describe it as a distraction from the anxiety, I mean that might be accurate. I don't know, but I'm just thinking that maybe what's actually happening is that is displacing the anxiety, not suppressing it, not holding it down, not hiding from it, but rather pushing it aside altogether.
But after the distraction ends,
Yeah, then it comes back. Sure.
then I can feel how it accumulated.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, that certainly gives you the idea
It's
of suppressed. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember once when I have a talk with a friend in my house, and then we said our farewells. I I closed the door, and I just flew down this door. I was just,
Uh,
and I was, oh my God, what happened? I'm just so exhausted and
yeah. Well, I've experienced that too. You know, like this friend that's been staying with us for a couple of days. Lovely, lovely bloke. We've had some really intense conversations, but I recognise that there were moments when I go, "Oh, I just need some silence. I just need some quiet time." Um, and yesterday I went and had a sleep as a way to do that. You know, it was just an avoidance kind of thing. But for sure, yeah, no, that kind of stuff, especially if it's intense, can be use a lot of energy. So when your friend left and you were just exhausted from the whatever the effort or whatever you want to call it that happened, was it the same? The you know, did you experience the same symptoms of the anxiety in that exhaustion, or was it just pure exhaustion, just absolutely needing a rest? Did it present as that anxiety, or did it present as just exhaustion?
Mm. Both.
Mm. So while you're actually having that walk and talking and so on, are there thoughts about what the consequences will be later, or does that not happen to you at all until later?
Mm, it's just normal. I don't think about it because it's normal. You know, when I eat, I don't think about that I will have to go to toilet some maybe a day later.
Right, yes.
Why would I think about it?
Right. So when you're having that conversation or walking and talking, there's no thoughts at all about the anxiety. It just doesn't exist for that moment.
I guess it still can show through the body. But it's for me, it's very often I don't notice shaking.
Right. Yeah.
You know how I said that I should preface every meeting with I have essential tremors. It's not that I'm a weirdo. I'm just shaking because of this disorder.
Mm.
Because I don't notice it, and I
Mm. Mm.
but I'm not even trying to control it
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Good. I'm glad you're not. Yeah.
because it's it's it would be in vain,
Yep. Yep. And
and it would
that's,
be just another burden, you
mm,
know, to stay vigilant all the time and
yeah.
monitor myself.
And that's probably likely to make it worse rather than better. I mean, that would be an exhausting job to do.
Yeah, just doesn't make sense.
No. So until I mentioned your hand, the tremor in your hand when you had the drink, you weren't even aware of it.
Hmm. I wasn't.
No. Mm.
It's normal.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It's just
yeah.
normal.
Same as breathing. We're not aware of our breathing until we think about it. Yeah, and there it is. Yeah. Mm. So that's another really positive thing, as I see it. You know that um, alongside that mechanistic view of it, there is no judgment of it. There is just facts, nothing but just the way it is. Yeah. But there is a thing in the back of your mind, and certainly is in the back of my mind, that it'd be lovely if one day it wasn't there. But not a lot of emphasis, not a lot of pushing, not a lot of energy in that one, just there in the background. For me, what about you?
Well, the anxiety and stressing the body is uncomfortable.
Mm. So from that point of view, it would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
And well, the body prefers to be comfortable.
Mm. Yep.
So it will naturally seek the way to be
Yeah.
comfortable.
And one of the ways it does that is by not being aware of it when it happens a lot of the time. It's just like breathing or seeing or whatever's going on. Yeah.
But also by seeking information on how it had appeared, this anxiety, what is the root cause, and what can be done with it.
Yeah. So I guess one of what I would like you to the productive attitude towards it, which you mostly have anyway, by not judging it and by being comfortable with the discomfort of it, is to not try to contain it with an explanation. You know, that unknown aspect of it is also very valuable because it opens up any possibility. It's not You're not trying to force it into some container like saying it's this or that or something else. It's possibly anything. Yeah. And recognize the possibility that the what's behind you not being able to easily imagine yourself without it is simply the fact that it's been around for so long that it seems normal. But we know that when you say that the body seeks comfort or prefers comfort, that there is some part of you that holds the idea of not having it. And you know from these meetings, you know that chasing it, trying to fix it, is usually not going to be successful. It's not the way to do it. The information won't come when we try and force it in a certain direction. The information that would change it for you, well, it can only arrive by invitation when all of the circumstances for it are right. But always holding that possibility is probably a good one. The possibility that it can happen, that because of your attitude, and that's a really good attitude, the attitude that there is no judgment about it. There is just that acceptance of the normality of it. That is very much uh, an open invitation for you to see what's behind it, or not. I always say that. I always say that one. Hi, Marius. So, Marius, what are your thoughts on not recording a meeting?
This meeting or
No, no, this meeting is being recorded, but yeah, but
yeah.
so I one of the people that I spoke to as at the support of Penilla and Todd's retreat suggested that she would be interested in coming if it wasn't recorded. And so I'm
Mm.
thinking now, I wonder if other people feel that way as well, and that there's the possibilities of an extra meeting that's not recorded, or b one of the existing meetings not being recorded. The problem with one of the existing meetings is, of course, that it takes 3 meetings to cover the time zones, and even then, it's not perfect. Uh,
Yeah.
so if we did an
Yeah.
extra meeting, is it going to be which time zone is it going to be okay for? Uh,
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to cater to everyone.
mm,
And I I decided to join. I remember the first meeting after watching a lot of your recordings. So that's kind of what get got me started. Um, but at the same time I see maybe you could make like a rule that um at the start of every meeting you kind of announce that um, or ask if there's anybody who prefers to stop the recording. I don't know if that would help. So it's like there's no there's no rule for every meeting that it should be recorded, but if nobody has anything against it, you just press record. So so the default rule is not recording until you get a go from everyone.
mm, yeah, that might work. Then I think, yeah, if somebody comes who is concerned about the recording, uh, with the idea that it's not going to be recorded, and then lots of people say it could be recorded, but it might alienate somebody too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm suspecting it's probably better to have a flat, this meeting won't be recorded, those ones will be, kind of thing. anyway, I'm just putting it out there, and I today's Wednesday, so I'll send out the links to the 3 recordings when I get to it, probably tonight or tomorrow, and I'll ask everybody on the list if what their thoughts are about that, and see. So it's a work in progress at this stage, and if everybody still wants to be, sees the value of recording, then I'll offer to work with this lady 1-to-1, do it that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I haven't really analyzed, but like I feel like every time I go back to want to see a recording I missed or something, I think you're averaging around 200 views or something per
Mm,
video.
yep,
So
pretty significant, isn't it?
yeah. So if we stop the recordings, there's 200
Yeah, yeah,
will
not.
miss it.
Mm. And there's a couple of people who just listen to the audio. They do it in their car as they're driving to work or whatever. And that's so I also do the audio as a separate thing for this. Yeah.
Mm.
And I had the thought that, there's, I don't know, there's well over 100 meetings recorded and on YouTube. It would be interesting to get artificial intelligence to go through all those recordings and come up with whatever they might come up with. I wonder if probably a lot of common themes, and I wonder even if there could be a compilation of relevant stuff that, yeah.
Yeah.
I, I had the idea for some reason. I saw a notification about something somebody put on TikTok, and I thought to myself, oh, I had, but haven't used it forever, an account at TikTok. So I went and had a look, and then there's all these subjects that are there. Oh, huge amount of them. So I thought I'll search for this kind of stuff, and I was right back into. I had to use that word spirituality to kind of find anything, or non-duality. And when I did the non-duality thing, there was a shitload. There was, oh God, there must have been 50 different people there with lots and lots of videos, and I just went, oh no, what is the point of throwing a grain of sand on the beach, Yeah.
I think at some point most people get kind of the sense of this being bullshit or not. So if they're watching some non-duality clip from somebody who is either deluded themselves or maybe even using it to get something, um, that the intention will at some point kick online and they will just lose interest in that
Mhm.
person content.
I imagine, yeah. I mean, I lost interest with the few that I watched. I lost interest pretty quickly,
Yeah.
the same thing, yeah. And it was like religion, they were just saying to people, well, have faith, you'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like everything else, everything gets capitalized.
Hmm. Yeah, oh, well, I didn't even think about that, the monetary side of people doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the motivations of those people, regardless of what they sounded like. I mean, I can only imagine. I felt a bit alone when I was looking at them, in the sense that, it feels whether I'm fooling myself or not, but it feels to me like the motivation is, I really want the world to wake up and get over some of this rubbish that's going on. Um, and there's no, the inhibition, of course, is that people might see it as self-aggrandizement or whatever. You know, I have no desire to be famous, but I would just like, so it'd be really good to have an avatar or something rather than be a person who might make
Yeah,
sense of this stuff. Yeah.
yeah. I have a similar, not the same issue, but um, the the people I used to hang out with a lot before. Um, uh, what should I say? It's invitations are starting to come to hang out again and to like and there's a tendency in that group to kind of they're all spiritual and like I was one of them, so I'm not judging, but um, to kind of be someone
Mm,
and and I don't want to be anyone. I want to be
mm,
no one. So it's like it just feels wrong in a way.
yep, yep, yep. Yeah. So,
But it's also kind of or my thoughts or questions around that whole situation is like there is also a subtle aversion to it. Like I don't want to see them because I don't want to put myself in that situation.
yep, yep. You get it. You don't want to be seen. That's right. And there's kind of an idea that in that situation, that quite unconsciously probably, but they're going to demand you be somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't open your mouth as nobody without being seen as somebody. So you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much better to keep away. Yeah.
But at the same time, I have this other side of me that says, I should be able to be anywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's another shoot.
yeah. I just heard it when I said it. I think
That was very wise of you, Bianca.
if I'm going to kind of assign some meaning to apparent happenings that I know doesn't have one, it kind of feels like I'm kind of being there's a movement towards going back into the wild.
I think it's a very real, how can I put it, concern that we can lose something. We can go
But
back to sleep, kind of thing.
yeah, it so it's two sides to that, right? Because I think the concern in itself might be just enough to make that not happen, even if one goes in. And but at the same time, I've had I've kind of stuck my toes in the water a couple of times, and I think I've shared this before, but I have felt mm, thoughts becoming more active, and because I need to kind of engage more in thoughts to be able to engage more in conversation. Um, it's not that thoughts is wrong, but the type of thoughts that gets activated around those people is it's thoughts that it doesn't serve me anymore. So I usually just sit there quietly,
Mm.
observe.
You find that's more the case if you're with people who, um, like that spiritual group kind of thing, rather than just, let's say you were with a bunch of strangers at a bus stop. That wouldn't be an issue for you. You would talk about the weather or the dogs or whatever just came into your perception. Okay. I ask because this is what happens for me, that,
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
I, I think it's more intense in a way, if I use that word, if we get into topics that I used to be into but no longer am. Like I used to
mm,
believe in, and now
yeah,
I see them.
mm,
Yeah. So, um, and I think the reaction in me isn't so much engaging in. It's not like I start to believe in those topics again. It's more of the opposite actually. Like I
yeah,
just
yeah,
want to say this is all bullshit.
yeah,
But it kind of stop. It kind of like I don't want to become that preacher.
yeah.
If that's their world and that's their world.
And for me, there's a recognition that it's absolutely pointless to try and change anybody's mind or try and help them or try and do anything about that if they're locked in. If they're locked in, they're locked in, and we'll just leave it alone.
Yeah, I have become very comfortable in stillness. So it's going to take some getting used to getting out in the world again some way. Because it's not that I'm not out in the world now, but it's significantly reduced after my burnout. So I've had a long period of stillness. Um, and I can just feel even like there's a contracting sensation in my brain almost when I go out and it's too much um, socializing.
Mm, mm. Yeah, me too. Maybe not to the same extent, but I don't know really. But yeah, I often feel quite exhausted by an intense, my wife and I, we go out for a meal with a bunch of other people, often 15 or 20 of them. Usually every Friday night they go and we don't. But when we do go out with them, it's an intense couple of hours of talking and talking about nothing really
Mhm.
of any consequence. but oh boy, when we get home, it's just like, oh, what a,
Yeah.
what a relief. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a significant difference. I told you before that I I feel drawn to the or have a desire to live in Thailand,
Mm.
and especially because where we would live or dream to live is very like it's on a farm.
Yep, yep.
So
You're isolated, but you're also isolated by the cultural difference, the language thing as well.
oh yeah,
It's very
yeah,
convenient, isn't it, that you don't have a conversation with somebody.
yeah. But there's something about nature as well. Like
Of
yes,
course.
I hear what you're saying, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, no, I get that as well. I mean, I came off 40 acres, and I really appreciated the gum trees and so on.
yeah,
And now we're definitely we live in a little village, but nevertheless, to go out and walk down the park and look at the water is just wonderful. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely refreshing and invigorating. Yeah. So is there any move afoot? Is there any happening that is leading you in towards the possibility of going back to Thailand?
Yeah,
How will
we're
you earn
kind
a
of
living over there? You'll need to earn a living, I guess.
yeah. So mm, we have two separate. Well, for income, we have a different plans where my wife has always dreamed of having kind of like a food truck, seasonal.
Oh, yeah,
So when
okay.
it's
In Thailand.
no in Norway, so
Oh,
we would it's more money here. So we
oh,
would make we would open the food truck here the 6 months of the year where it's decent weather, and then go back to Thailand in the winter. And
right. And you would sell Thai street food? I'll come
yeah,
and have some. I'll come and have some.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Back in 1979, my wife and I took our two kids who were 10 and 12 years old, and we basically spent 5 months going around Asia, and we spent a full month in Thailand, and just love that street food. Oh, it's wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah. I still have such fond memories of it, and we cook Thai stuff, but we can never quite capture that same thing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
rather imagine the novelty of that would be go down really well in Norway.
Yeah, I mean there are plenty of Asian restaurants here, but we don't live in the capital. We live a little bit outside in a smaller town. There is another Asian restaurants here, but they serve different dishes. So
Yeah, 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 for
yeah,
sure.
um, so yeah. I mean, we Norwegians, the traditional food is very bland. So
Okay.
a lot of us like to go out and eat something less bland.
Mm, mm. What about Chile? People in Norway into Chile like Thailand?
Not like Thailand, not the level, but they do like a little bit of a kick. But what they define as a kick
Yeah,
would,
yeah, yeah. I get that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I cooked a curry for a friend who was staying with us last night, and because he said, oh, he only likes his chili kind of mild, I put about one third of what I normally put in it for him.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when he was eating it, he was saying, "There's a lot of chili in this." He said, by the end of the meal, he said that was just the right amount of chili. Well, and I ended up with eating about another four chilies along with mine. Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's kind of addictive
Oh,
uh,
absolutely, for
for
sure.
me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing that just I find is almost never, there's one place in Australia that I've actually had what I would call an authentic peanut sauce that they make in Thailand, and that's really hard to do, you know. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's really, I love that.
And that's her kind of side, and I want to somehow create an online business that I can
Yes.
do from anywhere.
Yep, yeah, that's
So
good. Yeah. And that opens up the world. There are many possibilities there.
yeah, I have a I have a dream. Um, because we have such a big space in Thailand, I hope one day to be able to kind of create uh, set up a few different bamboo bungalows, just simple ones, and then just to invite a bunch of people over from that kind of have similar interests.
Yep,
Uh,
the retreats.
kind of, yeah.
Yep, yep,
Just because I enjoy the community and I get the feeling that others do as well. So it would be nice to kind of meet in person
yep, yep.
sometimes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's big value in going to somewhere like that to do that kind of thing. You know, that
Yeah.
that literally is the word retreat. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. And we retreat to somewhere where we can go forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how accurate it is, but I rather imagine that like I mean when I think about my perception of the spiritual community when I well through for the last 40 years it was basically seemed to be non-existent, and then it just kind of grew and grew very slowly at first, but in the last couple of years it seems to have exploded. Now whether that's just my exposure or whether it's an accurate observation of the world, I think that we more and more and more people are going to be into this, when they discover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think again, I have to copy what you just said because I don't really know, but um, I also got the feeling that it was or is growing and growing, and especially the what we term the new age community, where I was deeply deluded in. Um, I think a lot of those people is you know doing their thing, and then I think at some point they will kind of reach disillusionment with that, and then seek something
yeah,
like this, like non-duality. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, just a moment.
yeah,
The chicken uncooked in the fridge, you're gonna have to put it today. Throw it
I could do that. I was thinking
out.
we'd make brawny treats out of it, maybe. Oh, okay, we can do that. Yeah, for sure. No worries. Sorry.
it's all right.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that disillusionment. It may not be disillusionment as per se but they may they may reach a point. I mean, um, I don't I mean I searched for well over 40 years and tried all sorts of things and was absolutely obsessive with this trying to wake up thing. And
Yeah.
at one point I went, oh, why didn't I wake up back when I was 15? You know, what a different life it would have been, you know, and then realized that, well, you know, everything that I ever did all led me to this place. I had to go through that in order to be here
Yeah.
now. And I
Yeah.
suspect that's what it is for them as well, you know, that they'll reach a point where they go, this is just a step on the way. What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mm, English isn't my first language, so when I use disillusionment, it might not be correct, but I think you're right about that. Yeah.
And what we're seeing in Australia, which is rather amazing, is that we've had. I mean, my wife and I, we've travelled a bit around Europe as well as Asia and so on. And what we're discovering now is there's this mob called Tripper around, and they're doing absolutely amazing stuff, and it's taking over the whole market. And so now you can get like airfares and accommodation and tour for two people to China for like $3,000. You think, wow, this is just, you know, but once upon a time it was like $5,000 each to go there.
Mm,
You know, the
yeah.
difference. So I suspect that what we're seeing is much cheaper travel uh, possibility.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should certainly lead into going to Thailand, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, uh, Thailand has, I think, for a while been a destination for spiritual seekers. Bali even more, but Thailand especially.
Yeah, well,
Um,
northern Thailand more so than south. You know, we're up in the. You know, I mean, we spent a month in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai up that way, so it was, you know, that was particularly good for us. Um,
yeah, that is amazing scenery. I love Chiang Mai. Just gotta let in my cat. Yeah, but there's a lot in South as well now.
okay,
Uh, the islands especially. Um, but I think that's more like the yoga and the meditation retreats and the fasting and the
mm,
all of that stuff.
mm,
Is David Bonnie still living on Bali?
no.
No.
Um, last I spoke to him, he was in Spain, but I'm not even sure where he is now. Yeah, I haven't spoken to him for a couple of months.
I think I've seen him starting some kind of course or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
I've seen that. Yeah, yeah. Bali's an interesting one. It's kind of lost. I mean, we were in Bali in 1980, I suppose, and that was our second time to Bali, and we were then kind of lamenting at how it had gone downhill and become commercial and so on and so on. So God knows what's happened since then. Yeah. I mean, I have seen a few things on TV shows about Bali, and it seems to be, well, really, really commercial these days. Quite different to what it was. Yet I'm sure there's still that atmosphere of, you know, the predominantly Hindu, I suppose, attitude of Bali was, you know, very accommodating, very, very comfortable place. You know, the Muslim stuff not so, but there's certainly that. And of course, the Buddhist in Thailand, although there's Muslims down south, isn't there?
Yeah,
Um, but they're the lovely people in Thailand. Very, very open and friendly. It was our experience.
Yeah, they call it the land of smiles, and I think that's fitting.
Mm.
And I also have the same impression as you. I've never been to Bali, but it feels like, from what I've heard only, that it's very um, spiritual, commercialized.
My Buddhist friend is just traveling through Bali, and well, she tries to find some something not commercial. Yeah. You know, instead of the beach, she went to a fish market. Because and there was so much life.
Yeah, I'm sure you could find it. It's there, you know, what you're looking for, but it's just you have to sort it out, kind of thing. Yeah.
It's really what's sad about it is when it becomes like a commercialized thing, it just the prices gets ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of find that community that you're probably seeking in a situation like that.
She will be visiting also a retreat center. But as you said, it can be commercialized spirituality.
Yeah.
Mm. There's so so much over this. Advertisements with meditation poses.
It's
Well,
hard to not uh, or to kind of get past any monetization in the current system we have in the world.
yeah, yeah, it's the relative thing. So even though it's commercial, it's not so much. I mean, it is to a degree, of course, but it's not so much how much it costs because the relative cost to compared to say Australia or US or places like that, it's still going to be cheap compared to it, relatively speaking. But it's the attitude, you know, that we're only in it for the money kind of thing, you know, that kind of thing. That's yeah.
I have to, but I maybe some, but some really are ridiculous in price, even if you're you are okay off in a Western country or Australia or whatever. I think um, yeah, I can't afford it.
No, no, me neither. And when I see some of the retreat, even you know Angelo's retreats and that, some of those things, you know, $2,000. Well, who's got $2,000? I certainly haven't. Yeah.
I I was, or I still probably am a member of a WhatsApp group of it's called Rupert Spira's Friends in Norway. So I saw that Rupert is coming to Norway, and for the first time, I think. And I think the retreat in itself cost like mm, $430. And then on top of that, you were forced to, if you wanted to be a part of the retreat, you needed to also buy accommodations there, which would be like $1,000 extra.
Mm.
So yeah, I think,
I
and for
mean,
the economy here, that's a lot.
mm.
Like the dollar is so strong compared to the Norwegian krone at the moment, so it's
Oh, same here.
ridiculous.
Yeah, same here. It's double. Yeah. Yeah. So what if when I do a one-to-one session with people, um, I offer a paid one and an unpaid one. It's the same one, but so it's like I say, those people who can afford it can pay me, and I
Mhm.
charge $75 for a session, and that works out to be over $100 Australian. So that's pretty good money for me, I think. Um,
Yeah,
and if they can't afford it, come for free. And and people have said to me, well, what if they're going to say they can't afford it, but they can? Well, I say under those circumstances, they can't afford it. So they might
mm,
have the money in the bank, but if they feel it's too much money to pay out, then they can't afford it. But it
yeah,
shouldn't preclude them from getting it. They should still be able to have it, in my mind, at least. And I'm cheap. I mean, I think Todd charges $100 for a session, and he's booked
yeah,
out till Christmas. He's got a lot of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is touching on something that I find interesting in my own journey is, charging. I don't have any services now. I used to have something I charged for before, and then like um, uh, there is, I think there's what somebody calls a money wound. Like I hesitate to charge what I'm probably worth, um, because of, for example, what you're referring to as well. I also feel like everybody should have access to.
Mm. I've probably got that same wound.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, because the world is how it is. The people charge what they charge, and people make what they make, and you know, there's probably a middle way from charging something ridiculous to also charging too little. And I struggle to kind of feel content with whatever I take.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trick, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I guess I'm lucky in one way, and that is that I'm on a pension. So, although it's a very modest amount of money, it's kind of enough to survive, and anything I earn is extra. Uh,
Yeah,
So that's not, but whereas you're dependent on it for living, that's a different story. Yeah.
yeah,
You need to have enough money when the bills come in to be able to pay them. Okay. Yeah. But this whole idea of what I'm worth, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah, that's like meaning and purpose. It's a total.
Yeah, 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 and that's kind of my point with like instead of asking what I'm worth, I think even if it feels weird, one has to gauge what the market is charging for it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
the guideline. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in the actual mechanism of that, in the internal experience.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it takes us very close to identification, doesn't it? When we start looking about at, what am I worth and what is my
Yeah,
time and yeah, all of that. Whereas if you're doing meals and in that food truck,
hmm,
whatever, it's straightforward. You compare it to what other people are doing. So you maybe want to make it slightly cheaper than what a restaurant is, but at the same time, people know that they're going to go out and pay so much for food.
yeah,
The interesting thing here is that friend that has been visiting, he took us out for lunch today, and we just went to the local club, and the average meal here was like $30. It's gone up $10 in the last 12 months for that same
yeah.
meal. Yeah. It's, no,
$30 US.
no, Australian.
Yeah.
So that'd be about, I suppose, $20 US.
And what is an average meal? Like where is it, a sandwich with some fries or what is it?
Oh, no, I had a Thai beef salad actually for lunch.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and my wife had penne, a pasta dish, and
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty uh, it's pretty cheap then, and or not cheap, but still like compared to Norway, I would say an average would be $30 for something like that, US.
Okay, yeah, right. So that's more like about what, $42 or something. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, that's the kind of price you would pay at a gourmet restaurant here, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Mm. As long as you didn't buy wine. If you bought wine, then well, you can double the price. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would a price be in Poland, Bianca, for your average meal like that? If you went out to a cafe or a restaurant, what would you pay?
I wasn't to a restaurant for so long, but I have no idea.
Right.
But for your price, it is about what my therapist
Okay. Yep.
requires. Yes, it's a bit less than $75, but it's in.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I don't get many people anyway. I might average one a week, so it's not. I'm not booked out.
Mhm.
Odd is. Yeah.
So per nail, she doesn't do it's only Todd.
He just does the one-to-ones, yeah, but they both together do the retreat. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what the price is of that, but I would say I probably couldn't afford to go to a retreat. Anyway, I'd say it, I don't know. I don't know exactly what they charge. I know I saw Violet once, and she's Angelo's one of Angelo's uh, people, um, and that was pretty expensive. But I was really lucky in that a friend of mine paid for it, so I didn't actually know how much it was. But had I had to pay, I probably wouldn't have seen her.
Mm.
Um, but Americans seem to have a really weird relationship with money. They because of their tipping and so on. And yeah, it's incomprehensible to me, their attitude towards money. I just don't understand it.
In
So,
what way?
well, I've got a couple of American friends here in Australia, and they pay a bill, but they never ask for change, and they always add a bit extra to it, and they're just totally unconcerned about the cost, it seems. Whereas,
Oh, okay.
I look at the menu and I look at the prices, and I never go for the steak because it's always $40, and so on. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I can't help but think, so if they charge whatever it is, let's say, I think Rupert's is probably relatively cheap in the $400, um, but if they charge that for a retreat,
It was when I think about it, it was probably euros, so it will be a bit higher actually.
yeah, it'd be more akin
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
so probably what, $600 or $700 Australian at the moment. But what I was going to say was, it's like that caters for people who've got money, it's like disposable money. They're different to the poor people who have got no disposable money. All of their money is tied up in living, kind of thing, and yet they're probably often more in need of something like this than
Yeah.
yeah, and so they're just ignored. We pretend they don't exist, kind of thing, and that's just not right in my way of looking at things. Because my whole life, I guess, I've been one of the poor ones, so
Yeah.
I don't want to be missed out on.
Yeah, same here. But it's the same, like I can only speak for myself now. Uh, in my current situation, I'm not motivated to pay almost like I wouldn't go to something like that. Like it would probably be nice, but it would be have to be very, very cheap for the motivation to sign up.
Mm.
I find that, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, and this isn't any critique or anything ill-willed towards the feathers and all of that, but I, I I get the feeling that it has an effect on people, a lot of people, not everyone, of course, of putting them into seeking even further than they need to be.
The fetters themselves, Yeah,
Yeah, or
but
at least the feathers of, you know, how I only know of Kevin's and Pernille and Todd's.
yep. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I certainly agree with you. I experienced that myself after, I don't know, 10 years of being awake. When I discovered the fetters, I immediately got tripped back into seeking again. Um, so it was, yeah, I do see that, and I do see in other people what I imagine is an attraction to the structure, and an
Yeah,
attraction to the ability to measure how far we are on along the path, kind of thing, and so on. Yeah, it's definitely a trap. I agree with you 100% on that one. Yeah,
and it's also kind of creating something that's not there, I feel sometimes, or maybe not there, but not the time to address it. You know, you kind of, at least this happened to me, and I think I've seen it happen to many others, is you have this structure, so you kind of, the doer inside of you in the seeking stage is kind of like using it as a map to go looking for something rather than just addressing it if
yeah,
it pops up.
mm.
So it creates something that isn't necessarily a problem or can.
It could. Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that it's really appropriate for people to understand. I think that it's a conceptual overlay that has possible ways of looking at what's discovered as a,
Yes.
and yeah, yeah. I found the Feta group that I go to which is my Sunday morning. Um, I found that to be helpful, but at the same time, I have thoughts about some people and their identification that seems to be kind of lurking in the background as a
Yeah.
result of playing with the fetters,
Yes.
Mm. And then I ask myself, well, am I just playing with myself? Is this just me saying that my attitude is right? If that's the case, like that, when I'm saying, well, I don't know where I am on the fetters, and I'm not particularly interested in finding that out, but I'm interested in each one as it turns up. If it, if you mention, say, feta sticks, then my mind goes in a certain direction, and I start looking at that aspect of my experience. Um, but that's there's nothing obsessive about that, trying to fix that.
Been here for a while.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, my son's arrived, and I've got a job to do with him, so we'll wind up in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they can have a place, but we have to be very careful about how we interact with it. Yeah.
The way I look at it is like if you're having a problem you're stumped with, like you don't know, or, and even that is not correct, I feel like, because you will somewhere or another, I believe at least, get through it naturally. But let's say if there's something you really feel like you want to understand better and you don't have the tools to understand it, then you can go to the Fetter encyclopedia and look up, how do I approach this? But as a kind of journey, I feel like it's
Yeah,
problematic.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's a tool,
Yeah,
and it's a tool that you use that can be helpful. Well, like anything we open our mouth about can be a tool under whatever circumstances are prevalent. Yeah.
yeah,
Like it's a proposition.
Hmm.
Just try it and see if it works.
Hmm. What will it reveal? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for this moment of feeling good, whatever, whatever that is. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye bye.